Okay, welcome back to the Gleam. So I know some of you have been liking our videos. So we thought we would have a bit of a conversation with a good friend of mine, Richard Gatchell. So he's been helping us with the Gleam, I guess, tidy up or restoration. So yeah, let's have a bit of a conversation. Welcome, Richard. And welcome to the Gleam. It's good to have the opportunity to talk to you about your involvement in the Gleam. I guess your background in the history of the industry, and really just have a free and frank conversation around boats and fishing and all of the things that we like and we love and we've grown up with. I guess we'll start with a bit about you. Who are you? What are you? What do you like? What you don't like? What's your background, Richard? Tell us.
My name's Richard Gatchell. I've always loved boats ever since I was just a wee young fella in Taupo. And when we moved down to Havelock, and I finally got my first little dinghy, and I started from there. And age of 14, I started fishing. Wasn't doing good at school, so...
Yeah, it's a bit of a common theme, I guess, the school thing. So that's unsurprising to me. I think a lot of people that probably struggled in the early years at school thought, what am I going to do? I quite like fishing. It's changed a bit now, obviously, because fishing has become a little bit academic and there's a lot of reporting and things sort of involved. But so tell us about, so you started off early, which is great. Like a lot of guys, that's in your blood. I get that. Being a guard, I understand that 100%. What about in the fishing industry? So I know that you've done a bit of time in the fishing industry. What was your background there? Like what boats were you on? What sort of fish were you catching? Yeah, what were you doing? Just tell us about your background in the New Zealand fishing industry.
Well, first off, when I left school at 14, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to be a mechanic originally, but it was my principal that got me into a fishing course. And so I did my fishing course in Picton with chap there, Marlborough Maritime School. And I did my course, and then suddenly there was a job in Havelock on a boat, the Lady Jane, and we were fishing in the Sounds. We weren't catching terribly much, but it was a start for me. And then went on from there, went on to bigger and better things, different boats, and different types of fishing: long lining, trawling, bottom long lining, scalloping, mussel farming.
I guess similar background to me. I recall those early days of sort of trawling in the Sounds. Back then it was almost pre-aquaculture. You could spend a week in there, not see another boat. It was often windy, a little bit rainy, but there was always a good spot to sort of, a good nook or a cranny to anchor in, like somewhere you could hide and get away from the weather. What sort of species were you chasing when you were fishing in the Sounds?
We caught quite a few snapper, a few gemfish, a lot of hake, worry how, red cod. That's sort of 80% of what we caught, and that was only a few cents per kilo, so we weren't making terribly much. That was pretty much about it. The Sounds were quite good for fishing then, in the 90s, but there was mussel farms there, but not many. But now there's more mussel farms. The fishing's not really as good, so I'm thinking that might have sort of buggered it up a bit.
Yeah, well, I guess, there's a different train of thought on that, isn't there, really? It's, I guess, a lot of the thing that we noticed as well. Aquaculture is a really important sector and a growth sector, which is good. But for us, I guess, you couldn't fish through or trawl through a marine farm, so there's a bit of that spatial exclusion stuff. But, largely, I think if you were allowed to go there today, you'd still do pretty well, really. So you worked on, so what was your sort of favourite boat or favourite area you fished, or what was your favourite type of fishing? Did you have any preferences? You mentioned a few different sort of methods there. What did you enjoy the most?
I did like surface lining. That was really good for bluefin tuna. It was a real big eye-opener. Not that much time to have off because you were working sort of 18, 19 hours and barely getting time to have something to eat. But bottom lining was probably my favourite. We did crayfishing and stuff, and that was good money. But I did like bottom lining. That was my favourite.
So is that local? Like, where were you bottom lining?
In the Strait mainly, and
So
up
Cook
by
Strait.
Kapiti, yeah. Worked with down at Okakari, entrance to Tory Channel.
Yep.
And we lived down there full time. And when we weren't fishing, we were farming. So you were doing 1 week, you were doing sort of shearing and pulling tawini up on the hills, Cook Strait southerly blowing, and other week you were up top of Derville, or you were over at the trios up Derville, even the rolling ground sometimes. And that was great, really good.
Yeah, it's a story I guess we've heard a bit, isn't it? Like, there was a lot of families that were fishing and farming. So if the weather was bad, they were farming in those gales, the southerlies you're talking about, anywhere around Cook Strait or Marlborough. And then when it was good, they were fishing. So it was, yeah. And I think a lot of early families, that's how they survived. They were able to do a bit of both.
I wish, sorry to interrupt, but I wish that I could get more people into the industry myself, because it is fantastic. It's hard to explain, but it's the best thing and great money. And it's just this, you wake up in the morning and you can see the stars, and there's no light pollution like there is in the likes of here in Nelson. It's just, you see so many different things. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that is part of it. Like, I mean, people don't know what the Milky Way looks like, unless you've been at sea, and you see some amazing things. And I think, there's you talk to plenty of fishermen, and they've seen some weird things in the sky as well. But that's a whole new topic of conversation. So you touched on the fact that you wish more people would come into the industry. And that leads me to, I guess, the purpose of what we're doing with the Gleam. So you've been involved with the restoration and supporting us on the Gleam over the past probably 2 or 3 years. And for those that don't know, the Gleam's one of the oldest fishing boats in the South Island. We've owned her since 1956. It's built in 46. And we take kids and job seekers out in the Nelson Harbour to learn more about the seafood industry and the different careers. So have you enjoyed that process? Like, why? You reached out very early and said, hey, the Gleam, you've got the Gleam. I love the Gleam. I love old boats. How can I help? So, I mean, what are your thoughts? Why are you passionate? What are your thoughts on the Gleam, what we're trying to do? What's your thoughts?
Well, you touched about it before, about it's one of the oldest boats in the harbour, and it's probably caught more shellfish than any of the other boats put together. And it's just a privilege to be able to be involved with this, and being able to skipper at part time's even better, and being able to tidy her up, just keep her looking pristine like it deserves, because it's a marvellous boat, really marvellous boat.
What do you like about it particularly? Like, you've talked about the age and the history. I mean, how does she handle? I mean, the gear on it. I don't know. Is there any particular favourite thing about the old girl?
It's a damn good sea boat. A lot of people were surprised by the size of the ice hold, because they think, since she's 42 feet, that, it's not got much of an ice hold, and it won't be great at sea. But it is, and they are so surprised.
Yeah, well, I think, and my father would correct me on it, but I'm pretty sure he's had about 6.5 tonne of red cod in the hold there at one stage. This vessel's got a checkered history with red cod. I might have told you once before that we spent, my father, Philip Gard, and my mother and my 2 sisters, we'd spend many Christmas holidays on the Gleam, going around Derville Island, doing bits and pieces and just holidaying.
Yeah.
And Dad, of course, could never help himself. And we'd always have the trawl gear on. And, his excuse was always after about 3 or 4 days, on the trip round D'Urville Island, we're running out of food, so what we'll do is we'll just throw the net over, boy, and we'll just have a little short tow and see if we can get a few flounders in that round Catherine's Cove and D'Urville Island to, just see if we can get a feed. Oh, yeah, that's good, Dad. Year one, I think he knew exactly what he was doing. So year one was like a shot of about 5 ton of red cod for about a half-hour shot.
Wow.
So here we were the crew, up to our waist in smelly old red cod, putting it in the fish hole, doing all these things. Then, of course, pretty much holiday over, had to go to the French Pass, unload it. We had Mum and myself and my sisters covered in red cod, the smell, the scales, and getting grumpier and grumpier, and Dad just had a cheeky grin. And he did it again the next year, and I think we had, I don't know, it might have been 8 or 10 ton of big bag. Same thing, we fell for it. And that was the last time we took the Gleam for a family holiday, because Mum put a foot down and that was it. So once a fisherman, always a fisherman. And this vessel has caught a lot of red cod and any of those other species. So what else do you think we could do, with the Gleam? Where do you think some of the other opportunities lie with it?
Well, there's so many that you could do. There's the fishing trips, do weddings. It would be even good to be able to get something up on the gantry and be able to park it up on mooring or something close to Shore Island and get more people interested in it, because everyone sees boats, looks at the boats, and it just would be good to be able to market it more, even just do cruises to Lighthouse or even just out round the bay. It's it's got a lot of potential. Something that I do like is hearing people's stories of back in the day scalloping or when they were picking mussels. I see it as I do now, and I can't envision on what it did back then, apart from seeing photos. Yep. And like I said before, it's a privilege to be able to be on this boat. It really is.
Yeah, and look, we appreciate that as a family. And I'm like you, it's surprising you're down here. Quite often you'll see a member of the public, normally even more mature than me, if that's possible, standing there and looking at the vessel. There's people that just come down every month or so to look at it, and they reminisce because they either worked on it, or because she was one of the main passenger vessels between Nelson, D'Urville Island and Wellington for years, they've done a trip on it, or they've done a fishing trip, and a lot of people still just come down to check in. So an important part of local history. And obviously, back in the day when she was built as a passenger vessel, she looks quite different today. And back in the, I think it might have been the 70s, my uncles took that bit off because it was a passenger boat and turned that into that large fish hold that you were talking about, because that fish hold used to be an accommodation and there was an estate room and a lounge and all sorts down there. So hence she was designed to have a lot of room down there, which of course the family converted into a fish hold. Yeah. More room, more fish, more value, largely at the end of the day. So
I wish I could have seen what she was like as a passenger boat. I've only seen pictures of being out on the slip, black and white. But it would have been really, really good to see what she was like. And now she's converted into the fishing boat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, and that's probably part of the charm as well, eh? When you think about it, we've still got the fishing gear on. So if people want to know about what a trawl winches look like, what do blocks and gantries look like, what does a shellfish tray look like? Because, obviously she's still got the scallop and oyster tray on the back. So it's... I think within a day and a half, we could probably have it back commercial fishing if the opportunity was there. But I think she enjoys being retired. And to be fair, it's a young man's job, younger than me, to be out there commercial fishing these days. So
it's quite good to, when you move the dinghy, you can actually see the wear on the tray, the aluminium tray, about how many ton of scallops that thing's seen. Because, man, it must have done some years of scalloping.
Absolutely, and that is a thing like most people don't appreciate. Like, most of the decks. So as you know, I mean, my grandfather Jack Guard built a lot of timber vessels, and the decks were normally made. The timber decks were made of matai, which is one of the hardest. It's basically a hardwood. But on most of the boats I can recall, the likes of the Nimbus and the Dorothy May and the Da Vinci, and on here. So matai, to give you context, you have to drill it. You can't bang a nail into it because it's like steel, so you've got to drill it. But we replaced the stern decks on most of our vessels over the years because your feet wore through 1.5 and 2-inch solid hardwood.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of the hours that guys spent standing at the scallop or oyster or mussel tray, bit of grit under their feet, turning and swiveling. These vessels have done a lot of man hours and had a lot of work.
Yeah.
But she's in pretty good nick for an 80-year-old. I'd like to think I'm, half as good as this when I'm 80, really.
No, she's a stunning boat. It really is.
So what else? If there's someone that wants to get into the maritime industry, and as you know, there's a lot of opportunities, Richard. There's fishing, there's shore-based, there's land-based, there's aquaculture, there's research, there's so many jobs. We're about the 5th largest export earner as a sea in New Zealand, and primary industries is vital for our economy that we need to have our hospitals and schools open. We need primary industries. Why would people want to come and work in the seafood industry, in your opinion? What's the attraction? What's the sales pitch from Richard?
Money is one thing, but when I first started in the early years, you got jobs by word of mouth. There was no need for school C and all these tickets and bits and pieces. But yeah, I'd say that money is one big thing, and just to have the passion of being outdoors. Yeah, you get some bad days out at sea, but you get just as many good days. And for my personal feeling is that there was nothing like getting up nice and early and you're listening to the radio and you start work and it's magic. And I know it sounds quite odd, my wife doesn't like it, but I love the smell of a fish hold. The smell, it brings back memories of fishing.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, the smell, obviously boats generally don't smell like people think they do, but it's like those life jackets, right? So we've got those old life jackets that were sitting in the forecastle, and they're up in the office at Guard Safety at the moment, and what we've been doing, they're the old strap ones that are challenging to put on, and we challenge kids to see who's quickest to put them on. But every time I walk in the office now, so you brought those up to the office a week or so ago, and of course every time I walk in the office, I smell the Gleam. Because they've picked up the Gleam smell. I'm not sure whether it's a mix of salt, oil, diesel, fish. It's not an offensive smell. It's a smell that I grew up with. So largely it makes me feel like I'm at home.
Yeah.
So things like that are really important to trigger those early memories. We'll probably start wrapping it up. And anything else, like anything that we haven't covered about the Gleam, the fishing industry, anything that you want to cover before we close off?
I sort of feel on the spot. I can't think of things much at the moment. I no doubt will later, but I just think that people should get into the fishing industry if they are interested in the outdoors, and I just hope that we get more work on here, doing trips, and yeah, that's about it.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Richard. And yeah, agree. So obviously the Gleam's being run by the Gleam Team Trust at the moment, so get in touch. And look, if you enjoyed this and you want us to do more of these podcast or type talks, then please subscribe because that's really important to us, and largely that's how we can get the recognition and continue to do more of these, and hopefully provide content. Feel free to get in touch and give us any topics you might want to talk about. We've got a reasonably wide range of knowledge in the seafood sector, the maritime sector, and get in touch, subscribe, and let us know what you want to hear about. So thanks for joining, and see you later.